Welcome in, everybody, to Week 11, the second week of sectional football here in Northeast Indiana. My name's Jeff Mahoney with Summit City Sports, and as always, we have Casey O'Boyle with Northeast Indiana GameNight. And Casey, last week was the sectional quarterfinals, and it certainly didn't disappoint. All of our SAC teams won. Concordia got a pass on to the next round, and Leo with a really impressive victory against Northridge.
It was a fun week of football. It was, one of those situations where I think a lot of people were wondering, was the SAC down this year? You heard that a lot throughout the course of the year. I think you and I both thought, no, it's not down. There's a lot of talent, a lot of really good coaching. And this is the postseason. This is where we find out, who can advance, who can't, who's a pretender, who's a contender. And, we had some teams go into some of those games as underdogs and wind up victorious. So kudos to Southside and Wayne especially, and Leo. My goodness, what a game that was. I enjoyed your call with Mr. Walburn, always very entertaining. I thought that was a fantastic game. It was low scoring like we thought, and I just wish they would open up that offense a little bit more. I mean, I keep begging Coach Souter to get Rylan Crawford a little bit more involved, and I'm sure the Leo folks, they know they're living dangerously right now with that offense, because the defense is fantastic and they've got enough playmakers. I'd just like to see them open it up just a little bit more this week, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Well, the 6A schools had a bye in that first week, and here in the Summit City, we kick off with a big matchup. It's Snyder at Homestead. Now, Homestead handled the Panthers the first time around 33-3. What do you expect the second time around with these two teams?
I think it's closer. I still think Homestead's the better team. It's my understanding that the Panthers might be missing a few guys this week on both sides of the ball, which could really hurt. But it is also my understanding that the Panthers are supposed to get DJ Moore back into the fold, the big offensive tackle, and he's played some defensive line this year as well. That will definitely help in the trenches. It's the old cliche. It's always tough to beat a team a second time. I don't envision a 30-point win for Homestead, but by the same token, it wouldn't shock me because this is a very, very talented team. They've proven it by winning the SAC. They had their fair share of setbacks this year in terms of COVID situations and some injuries. I think they're about as healthy as they've been all year long. I think Ryan Burton is a game time decision, I'm told. The outstanding outside linebacker / strong safety for Homestead's defense, but they're fantastic on that side of the ball. Coach Kurt Tittman from Snyder told me he thought Homestead's offensive line was the best offensive line in the area. And I would also concur that I think Snyder has the best defensive line in the area, which makes for a tremendous matchup to see that front four from Snyder, led by Ison Robinson, going up against the seasoned Homestead offensive line. Some of those kids have been starting now for 3 years. So it's going to be a great matchup. You talk about games being won in the trenches. This certainly could be one of them, but I still give Homestead a 3-score advantage just because I think they've got more playmakers, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Casey, these two teams met up in week number 5. Once again, 33-3 win for Homestead. Who do you think's better here in the postseason? I shouldn't say who's better, but which team has made greater strides?
Well, they both have, Jeff. I mean, I think it's unbelievable. I mean, we talked all year long about the story with Evan Ormsby, the quarterback out at Homestead, and the rough start he got off to, and how that, they were 0-1 and staring 0-2 straight in the face. We're lucky enough to escape week 2 against Concordia team that's 4-5 right now. So they've really made great strides, and what they've done offensively is remarkable in terms of getting this quarterback more confident in their system, utilizing those weapons, and being patient, I think, with what they were trying to do. Coach Skelton, the offensive coordinator out at Homestead, is just a fantastic coach. He was a head coach before. He's had he was out at New Haven, remember, for a short while as a coordinator before he took the head coaching job at Peru. And he's got a great football mind. and he's really good with quarterbacks. I mean, if you look at the Homestead quarterbacks over the last 10 years or so, it's phenomenal. And this is Evan Ormsby is a defensive lineman who got thrust into duty, and now he's, on the brink of, all state acknowledgement and other postseason accolades because of the season he's put together. So it's quite a story. But Snyder too, everybody was throwing dirt on the Panthers. Remember when they got off to those early losses, three losses by 30 points each time, had everybody doubting the Panthers, and they quietly positioned themselves in the top half of the SAC with a 5-4 record. And right now, I think, a very dangerous team, because these kids, they're very young, but the sophomores and juniors are now playing like juniors and seniors. And so if they can move the ball a little bit, especially with their play action game, I think that'll be key. Keep that Homestead offense on the sideline, maybe get a break or two early. I think they're going to pull out all the stops. I think we could see a fake punt. We could see, some reverses, some double passes, things of that nature, to see if they can't get a big play from their offense when the opportunity is there. And who knows? I mean, this is Snyder Homestead, so anything's bound to happen. But Homestead still, to me, looks to be the better team. But they both made amazing strides this year.
Yeah, Tyrese Brown really picking up his play for the Panthers. Nearly 300 yards against Wayne and against Lures. That was in the final week of the regular season. He had 5 touchdowns, I believe it was, against Lures. And now you're saying he might get one of the better offensive linemen back. So that should be interesting in that matchup.
Yeah, that'll be key. If they're able to run the ball and slow tempo down just a little bit, that'll be super important. But again, they've got to find some home run plays with their offense. Their offense has been pretty pedestrian this year. If they're going to pull off an upset, I think against Homestead, they're going to have to get a home run or two from somebody. And I'm not sure who it is, but I'm sure that they'll put some things in this week. Jeff, you can pan back to me. I had a picture I wanted to show real quick about from this game. Here's this is one of my travel baseball teams that I coached a decade or so back with my oldest son, who's now playing college baseball in Michigan. A lot of these kids went on to play college sports. Here's one right here. I don't know if you can see him holding, it looks like a little ribbon. They should have given us more than a ribbon for winning this tournament. But at any rate, right there is Ben Skoranek, who we picked up. We recruited him. We heard about him. We recruited him, brought him to the Wallen Red Raiders. Ben, of course, then went on to have a lot of stardom out at Homestead High School, and then went to Northwestern. Now with Notre Dame. Super proud of Ben. 2 touchdown receptions last week against Pittsburgh. That was really cool to sit at home and watch a former player of mine in baseball, of course, do amazing things on the gridiron and really kind of jump-started Notre Dame's offense. Very proud of Ben. Dave Skronik is a good friend of mine, his father, and Ben was a joy to coach. He was not the best baseball player we had the 2.5 years he was with us, but he was the kind of kid that you couldn't leave him out of the lineup. He could play virtually everywhere. He played outfield, infield. He pitched some for us. You watch him swing a baseball bat. You wondered how he ever hit the darn thing, but he always got on base. And so I'm not surprised at his success, because he was the hardest worker we probably had during our years with Wallen. And just wanted to throw that out there. He's a great kid, and kudos to him and the Homestead Spartans. What a tremendous effort by Ben last week.
Yeah, the alumni tree is strong at both schools. Over there at Snyder, I hear Michael Halpert's getting some serious consideration for starting QB duties at Indiana State. Of course, last year they had him in that slash role, and he's just such a great athlete. He was really productive for the Sycamores.
Yeah, Michael's a great kid too. Remember, he started out at Bishop Dwenger and ended up transferring to Snyder. I know his folks as well. Michael's a great kid. I love his guitar renditions that he puts out on Twitter and whatnot too. He's very talented. So he's not only a really good football player, but the kid can sing and strum a guitar too.
Well, staying in our area, Carroll is heading to Warsaw. The Chargers with another great season under their junior quarterback, Jeff Becker. Carroll finishing in 3rd place in the Summit Athletic Conference. Their only 2 losses came against Bishop Dwenger and Homestead. but these Chargers that week off, I got to feel like it's pretty good for them. And they're going to be up there on the turf in Warsaw, and they can sling that ball around. Of course, Jeff Becker being named first team All-SAC. So you like Carroll in this game, and the sideline Swami said Carroll by 20 points.
Yeah, I think, again, weather's supposed to be decent. It's going to be chilly. I think, Jeff Becker clearly is the guy that gets that offense going, accounting for almost 95% of their offense this year, running and passing. Warsaw has not seen anything like what Carroll wants to do offensively. If Carroll gets up early, this could be a blowout, be even more than 20 points, because Warsaw is not built for playing from behind. They want to slow the game down. They want to limit possessions for Carroll, 4-down territory up and down the field. And they're going to do their very best to just pound the ball and get 2.5, 3 yards a pop and keep that ball away from Becker and company from Carroll. But Carroll's the better team, certainly on paper. But, you never know. Going on the road, it's playoff time. Strange things happen. You get a bad break or a tough call or a turnover early, and all of a sudden you start doing things you don't want to do, and you find yourself down a couple scores. Warsaw's got the kind of offense, Jeff, that they can really salt the clock away. And so Carroll's going to have to go man on the perimeter and load up the box and take some chances and try to get Warsaw behind the chains and get Coach Curtis's team doing things they don't want to do. But another intriguing matchup for sure. There you got a good shot there, Mason Englert, who has just had a phenomenal year. He's been kind of quiet these last few weeks as folks have given him, I think, a little more attention, but he is still a heck of a playmaker. And as long as he's on the field, he'll be Jeff Becker's, go-to guy for sure, especially when they need a big play downfield.
Very contrasting styles here. Like you said, Warsaw can really hold on to the ball, where we saw with Carroll against Northside, they only needed about a minute to score the ball. So this is going to be a really intriguing matchup. And it's kind of been all about the defense over there at Carroll the last couple of games. So we'll see how this defense can handle that strong rushing attack. You can see after the 70-41 loss against Homestead, the defense held strong against Concordia, winning it 24-14, and then a 56-12 win against Wayne.
Yeah, they've made some strides in that regard for sure. And I think they've been really, really good against one-dimensional type teams, running teams. So, and that's what Warsaw is. So that's why I give a heavy advantage to the Chargers.
Well, we're going to head to the 5A now, and this is going to be a great rematch here. 4-5 Northside versus 4-5 Northrop. Deuce Taylor and the boys over there at Northside. Deuce, the one of the top passers in the whole state, top passer in the SAC, going up against one of the best running backs in the state, one of the top rushers in Northrop's Demarius Cowan. First time around, and this was just 3 weeks ago. It was Northrop winning at 28-7. Northside had a go-ahead touchdown. I believe it was Deuce to Bronte Johnson that got called back. And they also went for a 2-point conversion that could have gave them the win in that game. So hats off to Coach Mike Brevard for going for it. I love it in that situation. In the same sense, the sideline Swami likes Northside to turn it around this time and win by 13.
I think, again, with that offense and being at home, I really like what Northside's done this year offensively. The attention that they put in these last few weeks to get Hassan Lambert running the ball, I think has made a huge difference. I got to give Coach Johnson, the offensive coordinator, credit for seeing that and realizing, okay, yeah, those big passing numbers with Deuce are fun. It's video game type stuff, but we don't have any control of what the weather is going to look like in late October and November. And here we are, and it's getting chilly, and we're going to have some rainy days, and the ball can get slick. You've got to be able to run the ball. And why not do it with a kid like Hassan Lambert, who I think is one of the most unheralded backs in the northern half of the state. This is a kid that's got good size, good vision. He runs hard. He's a tough kid. And they've really turned it up in that regard on that side of the ball. And that, I think, makes that passing game, Jeff, all the more difficult to defend. So the 13-point spread certainly isn't a knock against Northrop. That's just where I think things line up right now. I think the Legends are a couple scores better in terms of talent. But on the other side, Northrop's got to feel good about themselves. When I spoke with Coach Dorfer this week, he said we enter this game not overconfident, but very sure of ourselves, and they're expecting to win. Northrop hasn't won sectional games, not sectional titles, but sectional games in back-to-back years since 2003 and 2004. So this is a team, a young team still, that is starting to find some success, and they really believe that they're going to be 500 after this contest against Northside. So, and then on the other side, talking to Coach Brevard, he thinks it's simple. He thinks they let one get away 3 weeks ago in that 1-point loss, and they just have to clean up a few things, especially the penalties. Penalties killed them in that contest, including that illegal block that Bronte Johnson's touchdown that probably would have given Northside the victory. And it called that play back. He thinks if they had that play, they wind up victorious. That being said, they've got extra motivation this time around. So if this isn't the best game on the docket this weekend, it's certainly in the top 2 or 3.
Demarius Cowan averaged 9.9 yards per carry last time against Northside. If you're Northside, do you put Hassan Lambert back on the defensive side of the ball, and does that change things up offensively for him?
Great question. And I think the answer is yes. Maybe you don't, or maybe you do initially. And if you're fortunate enough to get out ahead and Northrop maybe has to throw a little bit more because they're playing from behind, you might be able to rest Hassan for perhaps the second half when you're trying to salt away a victory. But it's a great question. I know for my money, I would have him on the field in this situation. They switched to a 4-man front in recent weeks, did Northside. You've talked a lot about the defensive ends and some of the improvement we've seen in that regard from Northside's defense. So again, another intriguing matchup. If Cowan's able to get 8, 9, 10 yards a clip, Northrop's going to be in really, really good shape. But you'd like to think that the Legends coaching staff has made some adjustments, and they're going to do everything they can to load up the box and make somebody else besides Demarius Cowan beat them.
Keani Bates, the quarterback over there at Northrop. How's Coach Dorfler feeling about his progression?
He loves it. I mean, it's interesting. At the beginning of the year, I remember watching their scrimmage. It was kind of a 3-way jamboree, remember, out at Spuller. And I watched them against Wayne and Southside, and I thought that he looked very confident, very comfortable for being a young kid. He's, I think, deceptively quick. He's a tough kid. He throws a decent ball, and I think he's progressed. They found some weapons in their passing game slowly but surely. And I think he's ecstatic about Keani Bates' progression this year. And why not? Again, they've got a ton of young kids, and they got freshmen and sophomores that are starting at a 5A school in one of the best conferences in the state. So there's a lot to be excited about in terms of Northrop football.
Yeah, speaking about excitement, how about their young freshman defensive end, Jules Hinton, who made all SAC second team? He's one of the top sack masters in the SAC.
Yeah, Jules. Again, I call him Jules Hinton. He sounds like a character from Pulp Fiction. I love the kid. He's exciting. He's got a big frame and a ton of upside. Another really talented young kid to keep an eye on here in the SAC. And, you throw him out there, and then you put Bronte Johnson, the freshman from Northside. And we got a lot of young star power in this game, Jeff. This is going to be a fun one.
Well, another game taking place in Class 5A is going to be Anderson at Bishop Dwenger. And Bishop Dwenger's had one heck of a season this year under head coach Jason Garrett, who's in his third year, just his third year, but he's won a state championship. He took the team to semi-state. And I'm telling you what, they're looking like they are on the road back to state here in year number 3. Anderson doesn't seem like they should be much of a challenge for these Saints, as the sideline Swami has Dwenger by 49.
Yeah, it's a big spread, especially knowing how Bishop Dwenger will sit on a lead and kind of protect some guys. But I just think, again, Anderson, the Indians, they don't play that great of a schedule. I mean, you've got it up right there. Harrison, perhaps a couple of these other schools, but I mean, they're just that's a basketball conference, and it has been for decades. And Dwenger is a football school with a ton of tradition. I think this one's over early. Playing at home, I think the Saints get a lot of kids out on the field, but they still have to get reps. You can't get so complacent that you beat a bad team by 2 or 3 scores when you should beat them by 6 or 7 or 8 scores. And so I think it's important that the Saints really take care of business, have a really solid 2 or 2.5 quarters of football, get a lot of guys playing. There's a good look at Brennan Lytle. He's had a tremendous season. He's 3 TD passes shy, Jeff, of tying Kevin Mers for the all-time record at Bishop Dwenger for career touchdown passes with 47. So he just passed Kevin Mers recently, a couple of weeks ago, of course, as the all-time leading passer. Now he's got an opportunity here with some TD tosses here in the postseason to become number 1 on the list all-time in career touchdown passes. An amazing career for Brendan. John Michael Fabini, I also found out, is a half a sack away from being the 5th all-time at Dwenger in terms of sacks in a single season. And they've had some great sack monsters through the years. Guys like Tyler Trappy come to mind. And what a season he's had this year. There's a good shot at with the 12.5 sacks. So I think with each sack, I think he's about 5 short from tying the record. So with a strong postseason push, he definitely, John Michael Fabini, could etch his name in the Dwenger record books as well. And, there's no reason. A lot of these teams, you can watch it on film, but they do such a good job disguising him off the edge. Do the Saints defensive coaches. Coach Nepper, in his first year out there at Dwenger, has done a tremendous job filling in for Coach Casey Kolkman, and they haven't missed a beat on that side of the ball. So I think this is a game the Saints take care of right away. Devin Tippmann and Matthew Jimenez, 2 starting linebackers, are out. Devin is the big question mark. Will he be back next week for a potential rematch versus Northside or Northrop? Either way, that game will clearly be a much more difficult challenge for the Saints next week versus tonight. No disrespect to Anderson. It's just the reality of things. So, that's the question mark. We'll keep an eye on that. He's got my understanding, is broken hand, and he's going to have surgery on it. And will he be able to come back with it wrapped next week, or do they save him for regionals in a possible game against I think Zionsville or Harrison? So again, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but it's something for us to keep in keep our eyes on, because that's a big subplot for Bishop Dwenger. Devin Tippmann, make no mistake, is their guy. They need him on both sides of the ball. He's that spirited leader, and without him, they're not the same team.
Would you expect a running back by committee to continue there at Dwenger here in the postseason? Devin's their top rusher, 66 attempts on the season, 399 yards. KJ Tittman, Louis Tittman obviously have great experience. Gavin Groves can certainly run the ball for them as well. He's their safety, who's just done a great job for the Saints. Who would you expect to pick up the majority of that slack?
Well, against Anderson in this first game, I think we're going to see 10 to 12 names on the rushing ledger for Bishop Dwenger, all with fairly even stats. But I think going forward, starting next week in the sectional final and beyond, I think it's Devin and KJ all the way. And I think you can use both those guys. KJ Tittman, I think, especially if they're concerned about Devin holding the ball, that broken bone is in his right hand. So it takes away that halfback pass that we saw earlier this year. And you worry about him, high and tight, holding onto the ball confidently. We may see a heavy dose of KJ for that very reason, and see Devin almost exclusively on the defensive side. So those will be decisions the Saints coaches will have to make. Not a bad option to be able to throw, even a less than 100% Devin Tittman into the backfield when you need a tough yard. But KJ Tittman is more than capable, and would not surprise me at all, Jeff, if in 3 or 4 weeks we're looking back and he's got some pretty significant rushing totals, KJ Tittman, that is, here in 3 or 4 weeks. He may really add to his numbers because of all these variables.
Yeah, KJ, of course, against Concordia. They had him in a little bit at Wildcat, too. So he's a big-time runner, can break off big-time runs. Had a great game against Carroll as well. And this is the Southside game where you see 10 different guys touch the ball. So that's kind of what Casey's referring to when he's saying we could see a lot of different people toting the rock for the Saints against Anderson. Well, in Class 4A, hey, what a week it was last week in Class 4A. How about the Southside Archers and that performance they put up against New Haven? It was outstanding, and I know Southside Nation was just beyond themselves. I mean, they were just loving the effort that the Archers put forth against the Bulldogs in that huge victory.
Yeah, another one of those SAC versus NE8 clashes where the two big local conferences here kind of go head to head and bragging rights are on the line. And I really thought New Haven would take care of business. I thought this was a team trending upward. Jakar Williams, Lane Woodson, and a bevy of other athletes on both sides of the ball. I thought they would get it done. They led early, and they looked like the better team to me through the first 3 or 4 possessions of the game. And then all of a sudden, momentum just changed. And kudos to the kids out at Southside for not quitting. We alluded last week on this show that, you know, it's possible. An upset here is possible. And we kind of referenced that 2016 upset victory over Leo for Southside, where they entered the postseason also with just 1 win. And everybody in town said, no way can they beat Leo. I think Leo was 7-2 or 8-1 that year. A pretty solid Leo team. And Southside rose up and beat them pretty handily. It was almost a replay to a certain degree this past week against New Haven. So kudos to Coach Norfleet. It's not easy when you've had the tough season like they've had to come out in the postseason and fall behind and then put forth that kind of effort. And so a lot of names there. Matt Morse, we knew would have to have a big night running the ball. Javante Malone as well. They got great production from both those guys in the ground game. And then the Quincy English is really emerging as a quarterback. You still see Coach Norfleet's son there on the stat sheet. So he's still mixed in and they're doing different things with him. You always have that threat of a double pass and things of that nature. And, you know, kudos to Coach Norfleet for making that change. I'm sure that's not easy, you know, when you're coaching your own son. But he felt like that's what was best for his program. He made the move and now consequently they're playing a little bit better on that side of the ball. And you see the stats there, 321 yards of offense with those kind of playmakers and the athletes on defense. That's about all you need to be competitive. And right now this is a very, very competitive, dangerous team that I think, you know, has another shot to win this week at Marion. You know, Marion's very athletic. But again, they don't play the schedule that Southside plays. Southside's got to go down there and believe that they can be successful.
Casey, Jalen Lattimore back on defense is a total difference maker for them. He makes everyone around him that much better. And I'm sorry, but week in, week out, Javante Malone is emerging as one of the top players in this area. I don't believe one-on-one you can stop him. One-on-two, he wins that matchup a lot as well. 6 carries, 83 yards, 2 touchdowns for Javante Malone on the ground. 3 receptions, 79 yards, and a touchdown. He also had an interception to go along with his 5 tackles and tackle for a loss. I remember the touchdown catch he had against Northside where he simply just wanted the ball more than the defender. And then after that was able to shake off 2 guys and score a big-time touchdown. I'm telling you, this guy is a real playmaker.
Yeah, you've liked him all year, as have I. I think also about that touchdown that he had, the game winner against Wayne. I believe it was a reverse call on 4th and forever, and how he got loose and was able to score. It was like a 25-yard run, but he ran almost 100 yards to get to the end zone, zigging and zagging. And it was one of those highlight real plays that we've had this year. There's about, feels like about 10 signature plays, and that one certainly has got to be in the mix. And another up and coming talent here that probably doesn't get the respect he deserves because he's playing on a team that hasn't won a ton, but very good player. We also have talked a lot about Trevor Happner, another really, really good football player on both sides of the ball for Southside. Jalen Lattimore, you mentioned him now that he's back and playing and healthy. Really, really good football player as well. So this, again, Southside can go down to Marion and win this game. We've got Marion by 2 scores, but that doesn't mean that we're not pulling for the Archers, because we are.
Yeah, Marion did beat Mississinawa 49-28. Mississinawa earlier in the year did lose to New Haven 22-14. So throw it all up in the air. It all depends on what these guys bring on Friday night. But wow, could you imagine Southside playing for a sectional championship? Casey, that would be something else for that school and for that program.
And not only that, Jeff, but what about Southside if they playing Wayne? How great would that be to see the 9th and 10th place teams in the SAC both go win 2 sectional games where they're pretty much underdogs in both, and then get a chance to play what was a classic finish earlier in the year, Southside's only win of the season. Wow, that would be a great storyline. I think Wayne's got a more difficult challenge, though, this week down at Delta. I mean, Delta's a more accomplished program and much more capable in terms of what they can do offensively, and a little more discipline on the defensive side of the ball, too. But anything's possible. And there's a big question mark. I hope it's okay we segue into that game. If Chris Thomas, the leading ball carrier for Wayne, is he going to play? He was disciplined last week, did not play in Wayne's victory over Huntington North, and it was a great win for the Generals. They still wound up victorious. Aiden Meek, the starting quarterback, was eligible to play. He was in pads, but he's had some arm issues with his throwing arm. So Coach Sherwood Haydock opted to keep him on the sideline in case they were in a situation where they needed somebody just to hand the ball off. So the Generals found a way to survive and advance. Now they go down to Delta, I think a pretty big underdog. But again, anything's possible. It is the playoffs. And if Chris Thomas plays in this game and they're able to get 1 or 2 home runs with those receivers, we talked a lot about Christian Flanagan and Cameron Tolles in recent weeks, Jamari Tabb, 6'4" tight end. They've got some weapons there. This could be the kind of game where that passing game opens up. And don't forget about Sean Collins either out of the slot. He's going to be the fastest player on the football field. And if Wayne pulls off an upset tonight, they may need a few of those guys to step up with some big plays in the passing game, which in turn will open up things on the ground, especially if Chris Thomas plays. I think that's kind of the X factor right now.
Yeah, Christian Trimble, the sophomore QB, has not been playing like a sophomore. He's got some moxie to him, and he's putting together a heck of a season here in relief of Aiden Meek. How do you feel about his progression? Do you think he'll be starting that game on Friday?
My gut tells me no. I think Aiden Meek will get the start behind center, but I think Coach Sherwood Haydock feels pretty good about Trimble's development. They haven't asked him to do a whole lot, but with that insistent ground attack, they're not asking Aiden Meek to do a lot either in terms of passing the ball. But they've got the weapons there if they need to. And I had a great conversation this week with Sherwood Haydock on the phone just 2 nights ago, and he flat out, he still believes in this team. He thinks they've got more than enough talent to go down there and get a victory over a very solid Delta team. Where would Delta rank in the SAC? I tried to ask him that question, and he couldn't really compare them to anybody in the conference. But I got the feeling that they don't fear Delta at all. That they know they play in a tougher conference, and the strength of schedule should pay dividends. And if they being the Wayne Generals can go down and get a break or 2 early, not turn over the ball, that's been their bugaboo all year long, has been the turnovers. If the Generals can get a big play, maybe in their passing game, avoid turnovers, and make the Eagles, beat them with long drives, this is another game that we may come back next week and say, gosh darn it, why didn't we being game night, take Wayne in an upset here, because the more I talk about this, Jeff, the more I'm kicking myself. But again, maybe it serves as some motivation for the Generals. I'd love to see them rise up. I'd love to see a Southside Wayne sectional final, 2 teams going into the tournament with 1 win each from the same conference. That would be fantastic.
Well, I did want to point out Christian Flanagan's really coming alive here at the end of the season. 4 touchdown receptions in the last 3 games. That's 2 against Homestead, 1 against Carroll, 1 against Huntington North. And as you stated earlier, Sean Collins had a big game for them against the Vikings. 19 carries, 99 yards, 5.2 average. But Delta, they got Mount Vernon on their schedule. Mount Vernon's coached by Mike Kirshner, who used to coach at Ben Davis. He's turning them into a powerhouse just like he did with Ben Davis. And they played at New Pal. So 28-21, they played New Pal pretty tough too. So Delta by no means are lacking any kind of competition. They are outscoring their opponents 30.7 to 17.3. But yeah, I think a lot of people think Delta is going to win this game. Let's see what the Generals can bring on Friday. You got Delta by 15.
Yeah, I think you're right. But again, I don't think New Pal is anywhere near what they were the last 4 years under Coach Ralph. Mount Vernon is a legit loss, but they lost 35-0. And Wayne could go play Mount Vernon and probably lose by a similar score. So it's very possible. It's going to depend on which Wayne team shows up. I mean, if they take care of the ball, they're in this. If they have costly turnovers and penalties, as cliche as that sounds, they'll get run off the field. So, but it all come down to that first quarter and a half. Maybe by halftime, we may know if they're in this game. It may be a dogfight till the end, but they're going to have to, I think, get some plays from that passing game. 6'5" Christian Flanagan, you just showed his numbers, has had a great run here lately. Cameron Tolles, 6'2", 6'4" Jamari Tab, and those are big athletes in the passing game. And I don't think Delta's seen 3 guys like that in terms of stature and size and athletic ability. And then you throw Sean Collins and his speed into the mix. I'm not going to rule it out, but by the same token, it could go the other direction quickly if they don't take care of the ball.
Well, a little bit of a curveball's been thrown to Concordia as they travel to Oak Hill. Oak Hill's a serious opponent with a 7-2 record, and Concordia is going to be without their head coach, as Dean Pantazzi tweeted out yesterday.
Yep, Coach Manigail confirmed that to me, that he says just the same COVID situation that a lot of coaches and kids have had to deal with. It sounds like he's feeling okay, but he is not going to be able to be on the sidelines. He was very implicit in that. He sent me an email, which leads me to believe that he might be hiding in a tree somewhere, or they might sneak him in via crane or something down at Oak Hill. So I doubt that, of course, but you never know. He didn't say he was going to be at home, is my point. So Coach Paul Fleege, a longtime coach, assistant coach, he was once the head coach there at Concordia about 2 decades ago, will actually be the official head coach for this game. I don't foresee this being a difficult game for Concordia, but that offense, Jeff, as we've talked about, has just not opened up. I mean, they've got the players. You think about, Brandon Davis and Amir Drew, and then all those receivers that were just, they had some success early midway through the season. They started slow. Now they're back to their early season struggles where they just can't seem to get much going. And I think this is the week that they get things going and the offense finds some continuity and some confidence for what I think could be a really nice run for the Cadets. Even though they're stumbling into the postseason here at 4-5, this is a very good Concordia team. Make no mistake. And the defense is fantastic. If they can get healthy, they get all their guys back, and that offense can just get some continuity. And I'm not sure if it's play calls, if it's scheme, if it's personnel, or if it's all of the above. But I think they've got the makings for a run if they can find some success on that side of the ball.
Cooper Harris, one of the top linebackers in the SAC. James Rusher is certainly exciting and only a sophomore. These guys in that Northside game, which was the last game they participated in, they were playing without a lot of players, and they lost that game 14-7 in OT. How huge was that week off last week against Peru heading into this game for the Cadets?
Oh, it was huge. We talked about it, this forfeiture could not have come at a better time for a Concordia team that was missing so many guys. They had so many injuries. Big Bubba Craig on the offensive line, a couple of guys on the defensive side of the ball, some of their top tacklers. They have not been 100% from week one, it seems like, in terms of personnel. Now they're missing their head coach, and they just can't catch a break, but maybe they did a week ago. I still think they beat Peru last week, but at least they were able to, focus a little bit on this game. I think they went into this game knowing that Oak Hill was a big favorite to beat Belmont last week, even though it was just 0-0 at halftime. But they were probably able to focus a little bit on this game and then just lick their wounds, so to speak, and rest some guys up. It's been a long season, and they've been beat up, but they're starting to get healthy. We know the defense is fantastic. The time of this was, I think, perfect. The timing of it was perfect for Concordia. Now they can set their sights on hopefully a win here and then a potential sectional final match against prohibitive favorite Norwell, which faces off against McConaughey. I think the Knights should take care of business there, which will make for another one of those exciting Northeast State versus SAC matchups next week in the sectional final.
Well, heading to 2A, Bishop Lures, just like they always do, getting it done in the postseason. This time they're going to travel to Fairfield, and that's a really intriguing matchup.
It is intriguing, and this is an exciting one. I mean, everybody's been talking a lot all year long about that potential Eastside Bishop Lures rematch. Remember, Eastside knocked the Knights out of the tournament last year, and Coach Todd Mason up there in Butler has done a tremendous job with that program. This is a really, really good Eastside team that's physical, but Fairfield quietly at 9-0. It's hard to be 9-0 and considered quiet, but when you're this far outside of our coverage area, we do technically cover them in game night, but they're way up there in Goshen. And Coach Matt Thacker, I mean, just 2 years ago, they had to forfeit a game, Jeff, because they didn't have enough players to field a team. To go from that and then in 2 years be 9-0, what a tremendous story, I think. First of all, big school champions in the Northeast Corner Conference. Again, it's not on the same par as the Summit Athletic Conference, but 9-0 is 9-0. They run a triple option offense, which is very, very difficult to defend. Corey Lance is their quarterback that is a very capable runner. He can also throw it if necessary. He's got only one interception, I believe, on the season, which is a school record. That mostly points to the fact that they don't throw much or they don't have to throw much. But this is a tough kid. The Abramson kid is another one that likes to run the ball. Kripe is another of those two seniors. And then Quinn Kitson has been really, really good this year. That's kind of their home run player. He also has interception returns for touchdowns. He's also in their return game. So they've got some players. And I know, speaking with Coach Kyle Lindsay out at Bishop Lures this week, he's definitely concerned. I mean, he knows that this is a team that is dangerous, and Bishop Lures has got to get off the field defensively, which has not been their strength this year. And Fairfield, I mean, make no mistake, if they're able to run the ball with success, this could be a tough game for the Bishop Lures Knights. But I think it's a great matchup. This is what I think makes Bishop Lures playoff football so compelling every year, especially when they're in 2A, because they're always facing teams outside the conference. There are no rematches with Concordia, let's say. And it's fantastic to see. I mean, we're gonna find out if Bishop Lures wins a sectional title this year and makes a run. They're gonna have to go through Fairfield and Eastside to do it, and it starts in Goshen this week with a really, really intriguing matchup against the Falcons.
I don't know that I've ever not seen a quarterback listed on team stats. Says here 0 receiving yards. Is that real?
I don't. Are you talking about? Are you on Fairfield?
Fairfield.
It must be an accident, because I know he's got passing yards. Corey Lance's, that is. I know they've thrown the ball.
Okay, well, either way though, great job by Bishop Lures last week handling business against Whitco, winning it 50-17. 6-7. And at times, this offense can be as dynamic as we've seen in Northeast Indiana.
Yeah, Carson Clark is still leading Class 2A, I believe, in passing yards. He's really matured in recent weeks. He's cut down on the turnovers. His decisions are much, much better. He's getting the ball to his playmakers. I mean, Brody Glenn has had a tremendous season in the passing game. You also have Krayshawn Menson, who's continuing to evolve on both sides of the ball. Another playmaker for him. We've talked a lot about Sir Hale and how he's really given him that complementary feature in terms of running the ball successfully. And then, oh, by the way, Ramon Anderson, the senior two-way standout, is back this week. He's been out since week 5, Jeff. Ramon Anderson, I did find out today, will play in this game for Bishop Lewis. He's healthy. This is, they got Foster Johnson back on the offensive line. This is probably as healthy as Lewis has been all season long. They are right now, I think, ready to make a run. Now they want to go up to Goshen, not step on their toe. They got to take care of business and avoid, some of the mistakes that they've had in some of their costly losses this year in terms of turnovers and penalties and whatnot. Go up and play their game, get the ball to their athletes in space. Talking to Matt Thacker, the coach out at Fairfield, that's what he's most concerned with, is Lure's speed on both sides of the ball. He said they're scary fast on defense, and he knows all about those playmakers on offense. So they just have to play assignment football, try to hang around as long as they can, and keep the ball away from that high-powered Lure's offense.
Yeah, the more and more Krayshawn Menson gets healthy for the Knights, the scarier that gets. You talk about speed, and he's got speed for days.
He does, and we saw it in the scrimmage where he had a pick 6 early on against Northside, and we're like, wow, this kid's going to be a real talent, and he is definitely. They need to find a way to get him the ball in space, especially as teams put a little more focus on Brody Glenn defensively. You throw Isaiah Simmons into the mix. This is a team that's got all the parts on the offensive side of the ball, and the defense is quietly improving. I mean, you just highlighted a few names there with Ethan Linker, Mason Daring. Some of those guys have really, really improved. And the Devon Dowdy, the young sophomore, since they moved him to defensive line, has really, I think, made them so much more dangerous up front.
Well, Casey, the last game, I want to get out of the SAC and get back into the NE8. Leo had a great performance last week against Northridge, coming back from behind. They were down 7-0 in that game and getting the victory. But once again, Caden Miller had to limp off to the sideline. That ankle injury is hampering him, and you just wonder how strong he's going to be for the Lions here in the postseason.
Yeah, he's not been the same back since I believe it was the East Noble game. He's just clearly there's something going on there. He doesn't have the same explosion, and with that T offense, that T formation offense, where it's all predicated on hitting the hole and it's all about timing. If you don't have that burst of speed to get by those linebackers as they're reading and trying to decipher where the ball's going, it's just not the same. And they've not been the same without him at 100%. So they've had other guys step up and do a nice job. We talked at the top of the show about their passing game or lack thereof and how that was really, really close to biting them last week. We felt that Northridge was a really tough physical opponent, and they were. Now they've got another one in the Northwood Panthers, right? The Black Crunch at 4-3. This is not one of the great Northwood teams, but very capable. It's my understanding that their quarterback, I think his last name is Newcomer, just came back last week in their win over Wawasee. So that's a new wrinkle that the previous portion of the season was not on film. And you can see there's some of the scores where they struggled offensively against decent teams. There's the one common denominator, Northridge. The Panthers lost that game 7-0, but I believe they were without their starting quarterback. And then the other one is East Noble in week 1, which, my goodness, that seems so long ago. I'm not sure how much that plays into this. The East Noble Leo game was 24-0 in favor of the Lions, but I think we all agree that that game felt and seemed much closer than 24 points. So Another tough matchup against a team from the Northern Lakes Conference. The NLC plays really good physical football. Leo will have their hands full in this one, especially if they're so one-dimensional that they can't throw the ball. That pass play, I tweeted to Damian Gutekunst, if they don't have that, I think they lose the game. There were some precarious calls too. I give you guys a lot of credit for handling that, because there were some questionable calls, including the pass interference along the sideline that extended a drive for Leo. Without 2 or 3 of those calls and the long pass play to Damian Gutekunst, I don't know if Leo escapes Middlebury with a W.
Yeah, Northridge was really impressed with their team and their quarterback. Honestly, it was one of the best quarterback performances I've seen all year from was it Luke Hooley over there with the Raiders. But Dallin Wirtz stepped up large for Leo. You can see he led the team with 10 tackles, and he was kind of a spy on Hooley, because that quarterback, he's one of those two-dimensional quarterbacks. He can run it, he can throw it, he's super savvy on the run. And Dallin Wirtz stepped up to the occasion, and you can see 3.5 tackles for a loss. He's one guy that I was really impressed with for Leo in that game.
Yeah, Dallin was a monster last week. You guys kept calling his name all night long. He was tremendous. Without his performance defensively, I think Northridge probably extends 2 or 3 series. He just seemed like he came up with one big stop after another on third down, especially. This is a very good defense. We knew it all along. The offense is concerning, though, without the element of the passing game. And I hate to beat a dead horse, but I'd want to see Rylan Crawford a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball if I'm a Leo fan. He's just too good, too talented. He's just such a weapon. He's got the big frame and the speed. You got to find ways to get him the ball. I was screaming last week at the television screen, because they have a safety over top, did Northridge, and then press coverage with the cornerback, and the slant looked to me like it was just right there. I mean, they were basically saying, we're happy to give you 8, 10, 12 yards every time Rylan was out wide. I would like to see them put the ball in the air a little bit more to make defenses more honest, because Northwood's going to be a tough opponent. And I don't think you can just run your base stuff and win this game tonight, and certainly not next week against potentially East Noble. I think at some point you've got to be able to throw the ball a little bit more if you want to make it to the regional and beyond.
Yeah, Rylan Crawford, 0 receptions, but I'm telling you, it's so deceiving there, because what he means to that offense, you put him out wide, and now the opposing team has to have 2 defenders kind of on Rylan Crawford, because he goes 6'3" and he's extremely athletic. The punt return he had in that game for 45 yards was a difference maker.
It was, but again, you look at those rushing stats. It's not like they were able to run a lot, even taking 2 guys out of the box. When they would put him out wide, Max Leffler had a nice game. But other than that, how many times would it be 2nd and 9, 3rd and 8? It just felt like 1 yard, a yard and a half, and they were just kind of chipping away. And I want to see him throw a little bit more. I want to see him throw a little bit more on first down. I'd love to see him throw to their backs. Really test the eyeballs of some of those defenders from Northwood with their linebackers, because we really haven't seen it all year long. There'd be an opportunity here, I think, to maybe take some shots in the flat, maybe a wheel route or 2 with some of your backs. I think there's some opportunities there for Leo to put a lot of pressure on a defense. Clearly, if Leo gets up 2 scores, they're going to win this game pretty easily, I think, because they're going to be able to milk the clock. But if they find themselves in a dogfight, they had 2 fumbles last week against Northridge. One of them led to the Raiders' only touchdown. So they can't do that. Coach Sauter told me turnovers this time of year will kill you. And so I expect a similar game plan, but I'm also hopeful that we might see a few new little wrinkles offensively for the Lions.
Yeah, one thing I thought that was interesting about those turnovers, Leo had come out probably 40 minutes before the start of the game. Northridge was out there about an hour and 15 minutes before the start of the game. And it just seemed like Northridge was a little bit more comfortable with the elements. So Not looking too much into that. Just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's a good point, Jeff. You never know if you get settled in. If you stay bundled up and you just roll right out at kickoff, maybe it takes a little while to get comfortable in the cold and wet. Certainly playing at home, I think, always benefits teams this time of year. What a beautiful facility that was, and the turf was just fantastic. So great environment. Leo, this is a team that has got a lot of talent. They're still pretty young, though. A lot of juniors on this team and sophomores that are playing key roles.
Hit the juniors.
But there's no reason they can't make a little bit of a run here. But they're going to be tested. If you think about it, Northridge, Northwood, potentially East Noble. I mean, that's a pretty difficult section. I think we felt that going in, and but they're 9-1. Kudos to Coach Souter. Built a tremendous program out at Leo, and hopefully they get an opportunity to play again another week.
Casey, huge shout out to Middlebury, Indiana, and that community. Football stadium right here, baseball stadium over here, softball right next to that. They all kind of share the locker rooms and stuff, so they have a huge communal area in the middle of it. All of it was artificial surface. Absolutely sparkling, brand new. It's beautiful out there.
Yeah, it looked like it on your telecast, your stream. It was you could tell the facilities were tremendous. You guys did a great job, as you always do, and it's nice being media guys where you're welcomed in from opposing, right, outside the area team. Sometimes some places are a little bit more friendly than others, but sounds like the folks up in Middlebury did a top-notch job.
Yeah, it's just the Verizon reception's a little tough out there. So if you'll notice, there was no tweeting during the game. We were lucky to get that broadcast out, to be honest with you. So, well, really excited for week number 2 here. I will be at Northside for the Northrop game. And what do you got for us, Casey?
Well, I got one. I meant to show this during the Lures segment, but I forgot. We need to acknowledge this guy, right? What a tremendous season. Can you see it there?
Yeah,
Kevin Kiermeier, right?
Yes.
Kevin, of course, was a really good football player at Bishop Lures. I think he had I want to say 9 or 10 interceptions his senior year for the Knights, and had speed galore, and of course went the JUCO route. And if they don't make it to the state finals, I remember him telling me this once, if Bishop Lures doesn't go to the state finals in baseball his senior year, he doesn't get the offer to play junior college baseball in Illinois, and then he doesn't get drafted. And he got drafted, I want to say maybe the 35th round. I mean, it wasn't like he was a top 5 or top 10 draft pick. And now he's arguably the best center fielder in the game. He's a Fort Wayne guy. Zach McKinstry from Northside was made an impact on the World Series champion Dodgers. Been really cool if he would have been on their playoff roster to see 2 kids from Fort Wayne in the World Series. My goodness, we are so blessed. We talk about it all the time. This I actually got a few years back, and my daughter, who just turned 16, she commandeered this. She took it from me. So it's normally not even in my office, but I told her, I said, Maura, I need that back because I want to bring that out. It is technically mine, Jeff, but of course he's a handsome young man. He's actually a cousin by marriage, I believe, on my wife's side. It's a long story. So he doesn't have any Swami blood in him. I'd like to take credit for his athletic ability, but I can't.
And I'll tell you what, his brother, Stephen Kiermeier, was one heck of a football player as well.
And he had a great beard. Fear the beard. He had a beard like that, like some of those Lures guys. I don't know how they do it. Like the Bickle family, and I mean, Stephen Kiermeier. I mean, they just big, thick, frightening beards when they're 15 or 16 years old. I don't know how they do it, but yes, what a linebacker he was. And he put the fear of the Lord in a lot of running backs in the area for sure.
Yeah, he had a pick 6 here at St. Francis as a starting middle linebacker, did Steven. So great kid. I want to say maybe he's a conservation officer now, but that's kind of the role he was going into. So, well, Casey, enjoy all the football this Friday. I'm sure you'll be snuggled up at home in the warmth.
I've actually, believe it or not, I'm going to sneak out and watch a little bit of Bishop Dwenger at Anderson. I'm breaking the mold this week. I think my bride and I are going to go out and watch a little football. It's going to be a chilly night, but beautiful. And then I'll get back and get all the games on Summit City Sports in a rewatch mode. And it's going to be fun. I mean, this is that time of year. We love it so much, and I'm excited to see all of our local teams advance. Hopefully all of our teams that are facing teams outside of our area are victorious, and we have more to talk about next week.
I'm sure we will, and I'm really excited to see what goes on there in 4A with Wayne and Southside. So, folks, everybody enjoy week number 2, the sectional semifinals here in Northeast Indiana. My name's Jeff Mahoney with Summit City Sports, and that's KCO Boyle. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.